Welcome to Share Talk, the only podcast where investors come first.
Hello and welcome to This is the fourth podcast from Market Musings with Fairbairn and Russell. May the fourth be with you. We missed a week last week because you're on holiday, or you were away out the country, Kenny.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think we actually missed very much in terms of the markets. I know last Saturday, instead of preparing for the podcast and recording it, I actually went down my allotment for the first time for the season, and I started my onions. So I've started my onions from seed this year as opposed to sets, and they're currently in my kitchen where it's a little bit warmer, and they're already starting to sprout actually. So yeah, that'll be coming more of a frequent visit down there as we progress out of winter.
We'll need to change your name to Percy Thrower. I think that's a bit before your time, Mark. But the older listeners will know who Percy Thrower is.
Yeah, this might be again something that's before my time, but yeah, or Monty Don. I'm familiar with him.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, but as I say, so we missed last week, but not much happened on the markets, I don't think. But this last week just gone was obviously a lot more interesting. We had a couple of big movers, didn't we?
Yeah, obviously, Couture came out with some decent news about a new project on Thursday. We can touch on that in a wee while, but I just want to go back to a couple of weeks ago. You talked about Sirius Minerals. I seen there was an update in the saga, so to speak.
Yes. Well remembered. So Sirius. Yeah, we spoke about that 2 weeks ago, and there was this deal that was offered from Anglo American at 5.5 pence. Well, the latest is that deal has been accepted and recommended by the board. So all that remains now, I suppose, is shareholder approval. But I would say it's unlikely it's going to be rejected because, well, what's the alternative if you reject it?
Yes.
The company potentially goes bust. But yeah, so 5.5 pence, which is it's cheap for what it is, which is a world class potash find, the biggest deposit of potash ever found in the world in the North York Moors. So yeah, and I mean there was some articles on the BBC News, on BBC Business throughout the week. It was on the front page there. Investors, sort of apparently seasoned investors who were not so happy because they've lost money. But it came down to what comes down to what we spoke about, wasn't it? Where it's like, you know, you've got to look where a company has gone from and to, and the inherent risks involved, and weigh it whether it's worth staying in or not.
Yeah, I suppose in the bigger picture, there's obviously there's going to be local jobs involved in the mine, so it's got to be good for the area.
Yeah, it's good for the area. It is good for the area because Redcar and Cleveland, the area where it is, they're sort of out on the east coast. There's not a whole lot of prosperity there. And I remember in the planning committee meeting, I actually watched it live when they were planning seeking approval for the plan permission to build the mine, and one of the big things they discussed was the rejuvenation of the area. So that is obviously a good thing. Also, of course, the UK's now got one of the world's largest supplies of potash, which would be good for the economy. But for shareholders above sort of 5.56p, then unfortunately, it's probably not. They're probably not happy with it, but it's the way of the game, isn't it?
Yep, life goes on. So it does, but all right.
It does.
Okay then. So obviously, we talked about the movers last week. Obviously, the main mover from the sort of shares that I've got in my watch list was Couture.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're up to date with the Couture story, or is this a...
So yeah, I know. I don't really know Couture as the company. I only know I hold shares in Power Metal Resources, which obviously has a holding in. That's really as far as my exposure and knowledge, to be honest, goes, Kenny.
Yeah,
so
I'm the same. I have my exposure to Couture Gold through Power Metal Resources. So Couture Gold came out with an announcement. It was pretty much out of the blue. They've been pretty quiet of recent months, and they announced that they had a gold production opportunity with a tailings project in South Africa.
Okay.
And obviously the share price went ballistic when
Yeah.
you look at some of the terms of the deal. It looks
going to like 300%, didn't it? At one point, I think in the day.
Yeah, and I think it finished up about 200%, and it only came off a touch on Friday, so it's done pretty well. Now, actually, I mean, I love projects like this because you can just Google, and the amount of information that was out there about this particular mine was great. So the actual Blytheville Main has been going since 1930, I think, and it was one of the highest grade gold mines in South Africa. But in 2013, it got into a bit of bother. The gold price was on its knees, so to speak. The company wasn't well run, and ultimately went into liquidation. And the illegal miners come in. Now, I actually found out a new word today as well. So these illegal miners are called Zamas, which is a new one in me. But anyway, these guys, they come in. Obviously, they took all the low-hanging fruit, all the high-grade ore, and once that ran out, they started destroying the infrastructure, stealing it for scrap, stripping all the electrical stuff out. So the underground mine, it was just basically wrecked. And the thing about the mine is, it's still got a 50 to 100 year mine life left, so it's a massive result.
50 to 100, wow.
50 to 100 years. So that's underground.
Yeah.
But obviously, the project at Couture we're getting involved with is the surface tailings, the tailing dumps or dams. So when you look at the actual headline of the announcement, I mean, it's all pending on debt equity, as all these things are. So it needs financing. But if you actually look at the structure of the deal, it's a 50-50 deal. There's a 1.34 million ounce gold resource in place at these tailings. Now, there's a nice split with measured, indicated and inferred. So there's a good mix there. The mining permits, the mining licenses are in place. The environmental impact assessment application agreement, whatever you want to call it, it's in place. And all the feasibility studies, etc., are pointing to a 35 life of mine for these tailings, producing about 35,000 ounce a year. So to put this tailings operation into perspective, Mark, if you look at, say for instance, the Ballarat mine in Victoria, now it's producing 46,000 ounces a year, and that's a working, functional mine. So these tailings it's quite a major project if they can produce 35,000 ounces for approximately 35 years. You can see why the share price went to the moon.
So tailings is what all that's been taken out already.
Yeah, so it's basically byproducts. So it is, and they just build these massive man-made dams, and they just store them. Now they can be liquid, they can be solids, they can be slurry, and they can take all sorts of forms. But the problem with the tailings is that they're usually pretty toxic, and that's why they're dammed up, because until somebody comes along and treats them and takes the byproducts out. So there's actually seven tailings dams there, but there's one in particular that they're looking to focus on initially, and that's got 400,000 ounces in the measured category. So that's a low hanging fruit they're going to go for first. But it looks a really, really good project, and obviously, again, I'll say it probably another 2 or 3 times. It's all dependent on debt equity for the project. But I wouldn't imagine Couture would have got into bed with this company unless they had already looked at the debt equity side. In fact, I think there is actually a statement in the RNS that they've actually made initial contact with a few banks, etc. So it looks really good. And if any listeners want to Google, if they just Google Blytheville Goldmain tailings presentation, and it brings up the environmental authorization application, and it's about a 58-page document, but there's some good maps in there, and there's some good information, and it's a real project. It's everything's in place, and and you can the 300%. I think it'll go more than 300% easy.
Well, it sounds like they've picked up a bargain there, doesn't it? From what you've just said to me.
Well, the market seems to think so.
Yeah.
The market likes it, and I think that what's good with Couture as well. There's only 180 million shares in issue, and when you break it down, so Kibo have got a 50. This is Kibo Energy now. Kibo Energy has got a 52% holding in Couture. So right away out of those 180 million shares, Kibo's got 95, Pow's got 10, and then a couple of significant shareholders have got 12 million, I think. So right away your 180 million shares is down to 63 million.
Yeah, it's not a lot.
Not a lot. And the way this deal was structured with the convertible loan note, yes, there will be potentially shares coming to the market, but at the moment it's just a loan note. It's a perfect storm, and I think if this project moves along and there's a few announcements, I think some of the spikes in the share price will be crazy.
Wow.
So,
and what did you say to search for, Kenny? Was it Blythe?
Blytheville, so BLYVOOR, and just search Blytheville Goldmain.
Oh yeah, okay,
tailings.
I can see it. Yeah, okay.
And you'll get the full 58-page document. And it's a good read. There's a lot of good stuff in there. I learned quite a lot, so I did as well, about tailings, dams, etc. So
yeah,
it's...
That's amazing that you can get 35 years just from the tailings. Then that's really quite amazing.
Yeah, and then you've got to think as well. So going back to the underground mine, they're at the moment they're actually they're putting all the infrastructure back in place to reopen the underground mine. So as these tailings are disappearing from the last 20, 30, 40 years or whatever, there's going to be more tailings coming behind it. So
yeah, sure. Wow,
it could be a fantastic project for Couture.
Yeah, sure.
But no, it's definitely, I'll be keeping an eye on Couture, and I'm obviously quite happy, and same as you, I've got my exposure through Power Metal Resources.
Through Power, yeah, and that had a little blip, didn't it, on the when on the same day as well?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a seller around Power Metals at the moment, but they can only sell
you reckon,
once. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So we can maybe touch on Power Metals another day, because that's another.
Yeah, it's another big one, isn't it? The other note what I noted move this week was obviously GGP, Greatland Gold, that had a good couple of days. I think it maybe did 20% one day and 30-odd% another day, and that was on an RNS of new results. I think at was it Javieron? Is that right? I've just got the So. The Newcrest's CEO quoted as saying, "The grades we're seeing are unique for this region, and we're excited to progress and accelerate our evaluation of this opportunity." So I know we actually have mentioned Greatland before, haven't we? When we were talking, I think about Rockfire, was it, or ECR possibly?
Yeah.
In that area in Australia. I think there's a lot of excitement around GGP in terms of what they've potentially got there. And with Newcrest being involved, that's obviously a huge advantage there, a huge sort of flag, I should say, a big flag that's being waved there.
Yeah. Well, here's a challenge for you, Mark. Why don't you go and see if you can get Gervaise head on the podcast?
See if I can get Gervaise on the podcast. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. I remember when Gervaise was on a Mining Maven podcast a couple of 3 years ago. I really enjoyed listening to him. I think he knows what he's talking about when it comes to things like gold and also monetary policy, which is something else I think we should I'd like to touch on the podcast. So I'll have to get in touch with him. Do you think he'll take much persuading?
Well, there's only one way to find out. I'm sure he's on Twitter anyway, so I'm sure you can.
I'll touch him up.
I'd maybe take that statement back. I wouldn't touch him up. I'd maybe contact him, but
hit him up. I should have hit him up, or contact him up. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that's cool. So do you want to talk about something on our watch list? I think you mentioned last time. What did you talk about last time? Oh, it was. It was Two Shields, wasn't it, that we spoke about last time? That was on your watch list. So I can take something off mine this week, maybe, to briefly talk about.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, I mean, I can pick sort of maybe RGM, Regency Mines.
Yeah, you go for that. I've got one as well, but we'll go for Regency first.
Yeah, we can go for Regency. So Regency, I've been in Regency for a number of years. I'm actually not in it at the moment. I was in it with regards to the coal project that they had, which actually sounded very good, sounded very interesting. But as it turns out, it seems that maybe we were led to believe it was perhaps more than it was. And unfortunately now that project's kind of been, written off, I suppose. There's not really much going on there with regards to that. But the reason it's sort of on my mind at the moment still is because of the recent change in the structure of the company, the restructure of the board, and the refocus on different projects. So now it's moved in a different direction. You've still got that Mambare project, the nickel project, and actually there was an RNS this week that came out about that. But the completely new direction they decided to go in was this battery storage technology. So they've got this what they call a peaker plant, and from what I understand, it's when the grid demands more energy than it can actually supply. They can call upon these peaker plants to deliver that extra energy, that extra power that will be delivered through what's stored in the batteries. And the way they'll generate this power and store it in the batteries is when it's cheaper. So overnight they can do that, but also they've got some gas generation turbines that are there that are capable of generating energy to store in batteries, and I believe they're also looking at anaerobic digestion, which is sort of a renewable source of generating energy that will also then be stored in the batteries and delivered to the national grid when it's required. So that's the new direction they've moved in and their focus. And they're also talking, I saw a video from Scott Kynes, the one of the directors, that they're actually going to rebrand as well. So it's still on my watch list. I'm not in it at the moment because I sort of wanted to watch this space and see how the new board do actually behave, what they do. Let's look at the rebranding. Also, I'm not, if I'm honest, completely sold on this battery storage peaker idea yet. Maybe it is something I should take more seriously, but it's something that doesn't really excite me. You know, as we mentioned before, I'm into exploration. I find that quite interesting and exciting. But potentially, this is a great idea, using the latest battery technology to generate an income. And this sort of restructure and refocus of the company is potentially a turnaround story. I don't know. Yeah. Do you have much history with Regency?
Yeah, I've got quite a lot of history with Regency. Unfortunately, some good, some bad. But we probably need 30-40 minutes to go through it, Mark. So we can maybe save that for another day. No, I was involved back in 29, 10, 11. And obviously it was interlinked with Red Rock, and Red Rock went in that mad crazy run up to, I think it was 20 pence at one point, and Regency was up at 8 pence or 9 pence. So yeah, I was involved in those days.
And Mambare was obviously still around then, wasn't it? Because that's been going on for ages, hasn't it? And it's
the issue, but it's not an issue. It's everybody wants nickel sulfides. This is Mambare's nickel laterite, which everybody wants nickel sulfides, whereas Mambare's nickel laterite, and the actual cost of building the plant for a nickel laterite operation is massive. It's into the billions and billions of dollars. So it's
got potential, but
I mean it's still a cracking. It's got potential, and they're looking at different ways of
it's one to watch, I think, for me, certainly for a while, and certainly just to see how the new board up the communication and this rebranding and just get the message out a bit more. And but it's still something I'm watching closely.
Yeah, I mean, something else I've got shares in them, but it seems to be going in a cycle again. Is Rockfire Resources. Now, obviously, Rockfire had that great rise from about 0.3 pence up to, well, it was up about 2.3 at one point. Now, I mean, it seems to have settled round about the penny. But since the new year, they've started coming out again with some really, really good RNSs. Now, I wasn't expecting them to be drilling again at plateau, probably to, I don't know, February, March. But they just announced out the blue that they'd started drilling. They finished it ahead of schedule, under budget. And then a couple of days later, they hit the market with we've encountered broad intervals of sulfides up to 50%. Now, if you actually look back at the announcement from I think it was October, when again, when they done the first round of drilling, they encountered sulphides again. Now, it was only 5, 10, up to a maximum of 25%. This time they're hitting 50%. Now, I'm not saying just because they've encountered sulphides they're going to get gold, but it's a really, really good indicator. It's a bit like if there's grey clouds in the sky, it's probably going to rain. That's the way I'm looking at it. So, drilling's finished. Results are in the lab. Knowing David Price, he'll probably release them in batches again, like he done the last time. So I wouldn't be surprised if in the next 10 days we start getting some results coming through in batches. And then just on Friday, they dropped in another RNS about the silver grades. They were hitting massive intervals of silver. Okay, people say it's silver. It's not worth a lot. It's not, but it's a free credit almost. Even if it adds 0.1 or 0.2 of a gram equivalent gold onto it's there. It's a credit. So it's all good. I really like Rockfire. It seems to be they seem to be very motivated and proactive, and
they do. And I know we spoke about this in a I think maybe the previous podcast or the one before. I know we've mentioned Rock before, and David Price is very good, isn't he, at sort of communicating the story. There's a lot of excitement building up around that company. Yeah, I agree there. Yeah. So okay, well, so going ahead then into next week, what are you going to be watching? What are you going to be looking out for on the market?
I'll obviously watching Couture because I think it's still got legs to go, but keeping an eye on Rock because David just keeps surprising us. Obviously Greatland.
Yeah, of course.
It just seems to be going and going. There's quite a few out there. I'm just going to bring up my watch list. There's that much on it.
Yeah, but it's like you said, I think on the last podcast, the market's waiting for that big mover, and obviously we have seen a big mover this week, and it sort of reignites the excitement, doesn't it, in the whole thing? So I'm certainly looking forward to Monday morning. There's
lots out there. We talked about or touched on Cobra as well. They were waiting for some results coming back from Cobra Resources for their gold project. Out with mining. Obviously, I mentioned Two Shields a couple of weeks ago. So I'm hoping for some news on Brand Shield, which is online brand protection. And I also quite like, just to come into my mind when you were talking about pica plants for Regency and biomass, I quite like ECTEC, which is energy from waste. I don't know if you've came across ECTEC before, so I might actually talk about ECTEC next week because I quite like that company, and they seem to be moving in the right direction now. It was a legacy dog in the past, but they've got a new board, and they seem to be, the news flow is coming in, and they seem to be ticking all the boxes. So I'll maybe put something together on ECTEC.
Yeah, save it for next week. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And obviously we'll get Darren Hazelwood of Panther Metals coming up. Hopefully.
Yes, so we've got hopefully a couple of guests. We've got Darren Hazelwood who has said he would like to take part, and I will contact Gervaise and see if we can get him involved on one in the near future. Yep. Okay, good. Well, good. Lots to talk about this week then, Kenny. So yeah, thank you for your time.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll get back to one a week.
Yes.
I was away on holiday, so I had to recharge the batteries. So,
everyone needs to do that every so often, don't we? But
we're back in the groove now.
Back in the groove, yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right then. Well, thank you again, Kenny, and we look forward to the next one. Yeah,
we'll enjoy your allotment if you're going up tomorrow.
Yes, probably. I'll spend some time there. Not a whole lot at the minute, but yeah, I'll be going there more frequently.
For my sins, I run the boys' football team, so that's what I'll be doing tomorrow. I'll be shouting at a bunch of 15-year-olds and they'll be shouting back at me. So
okay, that sounds fun.
Well, yeah, sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not. We're not the best team in the world, but we the boys just go and give it their best. So that's all you can ask for. So
yeah, that's all you can ask for. All right.
Anyway.
Okay. Well, thanks again, Kenny.
Okay, right. We'll catch up with you later, Mark.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers then.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. Remember to visit our website for more news and other podcasts at www.share-talk.com.